Dear Diary, it's day 13 without any F1 in my life, and let me be frank. Despite Red Bull's best efforts over the previous week, my misery stretches out in front of me like an endless ocean. Much like the one stretching out in front of all the F1 drivers currently enjoying their holidays, you only have to look at their Instagram accounts to see the happiness, the joy, the wild abandon. And what do they leave us with? Nothing. The only person that can truly comprehend my pain is poor Pierre Gasly, who is Red Bull's latest supply chain victim, banished from the team at the slightest flick of Helmut Marko's finger. And diary, today I will be ruminating over the causes, consequences and outcomes of Red Bull's daring move. Hello and welcome to the TF1 show. I am your slightly melodramatic host, Tinus, the walk-in closet that maintains law and order in the chaotic wardrobe that is the world of F1. And today, dear listeners, we'll be discussing the only news to come out of F1 over the past week. But let's be honest, it wasn't the biggest surprise in history. But what was a surprise was the fact that Red Bull decided to go with Alex Albon, the Toro Rosso rookie, instead of someone probably a bit more experienced, like Daniel Kvyat. But let's discuss. So, obviously from the outset, I think it's very much documented that Pierre Gasly has been having a pretty shocking season so far at Red Bull up to this point, and I don't think, as I mentioned in the intro, that it's a big surprise that Red Bull decided to drop Gasly, given especially given his performance at the Hungarian Grand Prix recently. And me, myself, on the show actually predicted and called that Gasly would be out of the seat before we get to the Belgian Grand Prix in Spa after the summer break. And so it's turned out to be. And let's start with some commiserations for Pierre Gasly, because it must be horrible to sort of know that this was coming and, trying your best to figure it out or sort out your performance in the car, but I guess it was not to be. And Gasly is now relegated to the Toro Rosso team with Alex Albon, who was driving for Toro Rosso up to this point, now promoted up to Red Bull to join Max Verstappen at the front of the pack. And what can we say? It's quite of a shock to me, I'm not going to lie, when I saw the news that Red Bull decided to go with Albon. And I guess that's what we need to ask ourselves, is why did Red Bull decide to go with Alexander Albon and not with Daniel Kvyat? And I think, the obvious answer, and I think most people probably suspect this, given what we know about Helmut Marko and Christian Horner and the Red Bull setup overall, is obviously they're a proud Formula One team with lots of racing heritage, and they've done some amazing things in the sport, and everybody has their pride. And I do think some people will listen to this and just say, we're reading way too much into this, and it's a purely administrative or a logical and pragmatic decision that Red Bull took to promote Albon and not Gasly. But I do think that to promote Kvyat up to Red Bull 2 years or 3 years after firing him from Red Bull it's a bit of a losing face situation. And I don't think if Helmut Marko and Christian Horner were able to avoid losing face, they would go with that route, I think. And given the other potential reasons for promoting Albon over Kvyat, I think the other big reason is obviously that Red Bull already know Kvyat. He's a known quantity. He's driven for them for a year and a bit, so they already know how he works, how what his speed is like, what type of car setup he likes. Just he's already, it's a been there, done that situation for Red Bull, I think. And obviously with Alex Albon, they don't know how good he really is. Obviously, they can look at what he's doing at Toro Rosso, and they can look at how well he performed in the junior formulae, but until he's in the car producing all of the data that Red Bull needs, I don't think I don't think they know how good he is and how well he is going to match up to Verstappen. And I think that's very important information that they do need, given the situation that they're in general, where they now have this pool of 4 drivers that's currently driving for the team, or not for the team, but in the Red Bull universe, if you can call it that, with 2 drivers at Red Bull Racing themselves, and then the 2 drivers at Toro Rosso. So obviously Max Verstappen is the de facto number 1 there, so he's not going anywhere. But in terms of them deciding and concluding, if you can call it that, on who's going to occupy that second seat at Red Bull, they've now obviously seen what Pierre Gasly can do, and as I've mentioned, they already know what Daniel Kvyat can do. So logically, it would then mean that Alex Albon, the 4th driver in the pack, would then be the next best choice, or the next option for them to test out and to understand how he's going to perform in a team that's, competing for race victories, and that's definitely in the running to finish second in the Constructors' Championship. Now, this obviously comes with a bit of a risk for Alex, given that we're past the halfway mark for the season. It's now the summer break, and then after that, I think there are 10 races remaining, if I'm not mistaken. And this then means that Alex Albon has a high mountain to climb in terms of learning the new team, learning the new car, finding his feet, dealing with a teammate in Max Verstappen that's operating at an extremely high level at the moment, all while, being under pressure and knowing that he has 9 races to effectively show that he deserves to be in the Red Bull team and he deserves that seat next to Max. Otherwise, they'll probably look somewhere else. And I mean, that's a lot of pressure to deal with, I think, for anyone, and especially given the fact that, Albon has only been he's only been in Formula One for 11 races. He's a rookie. He hasn't even completed a full season at Formula One, and obviously that holds some risks for both him and for Red Bull, because I mean, Gasly did a full season at Toro Rosso, and then he got called up to Red Bull, and Red Bull actually admitted that they would have really liked Gasly to spend another year at Toro Rosso before promoting him into Red Bull. But obviously Daniel Ricciardo leaving unexpectedly last year forced their hand in a sense to promote Gasly up into the big team. And I mean, it hasn't worked out brilliantly for them, has it? And also, it's talking about not working out brilliantly. I do think it's a bit silly that, at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Christian Horner and Helmut Marko were insistent. They were like, no, Gasly's definitely going to finish the season with us. He just needs more time to find his feet. He doesn't have to worry about being out of a seat before the end of the year. And I mean, they convinced me. I was thinking, and obviously, if you've listened to my episodes over the year, I was constantly saying that. I mean, there's no way that Gasly is going to finish this stint at Red Bull for the full season. I thought he was going to be, fired basically now. But, Marko and Horner insisted that there's no way that Pierre Gasly is going to lose his seat. He has the rest of the season to sort of embed himself in the team and to find his feet. And so I don't really know why they changed their minds so quickly, because I mean, they blatantly misspoke. They blatantly told something to the press and something to, the Formula One universe. And then a few days afterwards, they were like, lol joke, April Fools. And, Gasly was out the door. So, Red Bull, I think, obviously, well, I guess what this does show us is that Gasly's performance at the Hungarian Grand Prix must have really rubbed Red Bull the wrong way. And I guess you can understand why, there's the whole theory, if you can call it that, or the train of thought that said, that goes, the reason that Max Verstappen lost the Hungarian Grand Prix is due to the fact that behind Hamilton and the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, there was such a massive gap that effectively gave Hamilton the free pit stop. And obviously, if Pierre Gasly was more on the pace, then that gap would never have existed, and then Lewis Hamilton probably wouldn't have gone for that second pit stop, which ended up, deciding the eventual race winner. So that must have obviously really hurt Red Bull, and you can understand why. Because, truth be told, over the past few Grand Prix, they have been the second best team. They've been faster than Ferrari, especially, if you look at Max Verstappen, he's been driving absolutely incredibly well. And I think Red Bull has realized that, they've sort of exceeded their own expectations in a sense, and that they're now very much in contention for second in the Constructors' Championship. But if you have a second driver scoring a third of the points of Verstappen, then that's obviously not going to be ideal in assisting that fight and in ensuring that the actual, championship battle happens with Ferrari. So I think Gasly, in a sense, he forced Red Bull's hand. And and that must really suck if you're Pierre Gasly, knowing that they were willing to give you the opportunity to the end of the year, but you just performing so badly that they effectively couldn't afford to keep you in that car any longer. So, interesting choices. And I think this must hurt Daniel Kvyat as well. Other than, I guess, if they, in the hypothetical scenario that they offered Daniel Kvyat the seat first and then he declined, which then where after they then went to Albon and offered the seat to him, but somehow I doubt that would have happened. So if you're Daniel Kvyat, that must have been this probably would have been a slap in the face for you, especially given the fact that you basically you ended up on the podium in your Toro Rosso not 3 weeks ago. So and I guess that lends itself to the theory that I think Red Bull really wanted to get Albon in that car to understand what his potential is and how well he is going to stack up. And then I think if you think about 2020 and then, after 2020, that then after accumulating this Albon data for the rest of the year, I think that leaves Red Bull in a position to then sit down, compare notes and say, listen, are we going to go with Kvyat, Albon or Gasly for the 2020 seat? But I'm going to be frank and say I don't think Gasly is going to end up back in that Red Bull. I think, given how far off the pace he was, I don't think Gasly is going to be back there. But at least he's now been afforded the opportunity to be at Toro Rosso, and if you never know, if you can put in really strong performances in the Toro Rosso up until the end of the year, he might end up with a drive somewhere else. But then we need to ask ourselves whether we think Red Bull made the right choice, everything considered. And I think they did. In terms of Albon. Albon has, without question, performed very, very well so far this year, given that he was a rookie, given that he sort of got the call to go drive for Toro Rosso so late in the season last year. He had no preparation, he had no expectation of driving in Formula One this year. And for him to, come in, adapt, match Daniel Kvyat, who's a seasoned competitor, who's been in a Red Bull before, match him and really, perform extremely well. And especially if you think about how well he did in China or how well he did in Germany, having never even driven a car in the wet before, for him to bring that car home in sixth, and actually he should have probably outscored Daniel Kvyat if it wasn't for Toro Rosso taking a bit of a gamble with Kvyat and the tires that ended up working out very well for him. Albon is a seriously fast and talented driver, and Charles Leclerc has said in the past that during his junior years, Alex Albon was the guy that he feared the most. He was the guy that Charles Leclerc felt was his toughest and most formidable competitor. And that says a lot, I think, about Albon's talent and Albon's speed. So I think that there's definitely a good chance that Albon can go to Red Bull and at least challenge Max. I don't think he's going to beat Max so quickly, just given how long Max has been in the car, how well he knows the team. The team is sort of structured around him. But I do think that with Albon in that seat, Red Bull can fight for second in the championship, obviously depending how effectively Ferrari manages to screw up their season, over the coming few races. But yeah, I think there's a good chance. But then there's also a risk that this can cost Alex Albon massively, and he can basically be collateral damage in Red Bull's sort of reshuffling of the cards for them to figure out what their next move is going to be in terms of their driver lineup. I really don't hope that's the case. I think it's going to be tough for him going up against Max Verstappen, especially since, I think it's not an underrated, but an underappreciated aspect of F1, the mental part, and how a driver has to be in the right mental space in order to perform, to the optimum, and in order to perform to the level that he could perform. And having Max as a teammate, especially Max in a team that's sort of completely built around him, might be, demoralizing, frustrating. It's similar to what happened to Daniel Ricciardo, where you're just a lot more insecure. You always feel like you're being the one disadvantaged, and that can obviously lead to Alex Albon's downfall. I really hope it doesn't, because I think he's a very, very fast driver. He's a really nice guy. He's a massive talent, and I would love to see, Max and Alex and Sebastian and Charles and Hamilton, and Bottas, I guess, will be there in a fight every race for victory, because I think a 6-horse race, every race, for the win is going to be fascinating to see, and I'm really looking forward to it. So here's hoping, and I hope you're all holding thumbs with me. All right, so there you go. Those were my quick views on all of the trouble that Red Bull stirred up over the past week. And I do hope it works out for all parties, but this is F1, so you never know what the hell is going to happen next. If you like my episode, please hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening on. Also, if you feel really generous, please also leave a rating, a review, or comment below the episode. You can also find me on Twitter, where my handle is @TF1Show, or on Instagram, where my handle is @TheTF1Show. We are halfway through the summer break, and I'd appreciate your thoughts and prayers in these difficult times. We'll chat again next week. Bye.